The courtroom fell silent the moment the doors swung open. A German shepherd padded slowly inside, his vest torn and dusty. Draped across his broad back was a bruised little girl, her arms wrapped around his neck. No one moved. No one spoke. The truth was about to be revealed. For a moment, it felt like the entire room forgot how to breathe. The German shepherd stood patiently in the aisle, his sides rising and falling with each heavy breath. Dust clung to the faded letters on his vest, K9 unit. On his back, the little girl didn't lift her head. Her tiny fist stayed knotted in his fur, her tear-streaked cheek pressed against his shoulder. The woman in the gallery covered her mouth with both hands. A man whispered, "Where did she come from?" But no one had an answer. Judge Reynolds was the first to move. He rose from the bench and descended the steps slowly, each footstep echoing in the tense silence. When he reached the dog, he knelt, careful not to startle either of them. "It's all right," he said gently. "You're safe here." The girl's eyes flickered open, glassy with exhaustion. Her lips parted, but no words came out, only a hoarse, shaky breath that told everyone how long she'd been waiting to be found. Just hours earlier, the dog had been searching the outskirts of town with his handler, Deputy Morales. The call had come in after dusk. A child missing from a neighborhood. No one wanted to walk alone at night. A K9 Max leapt from the cruiser before Morales had even unclipped the lead, nose low to the cracked sidewalk. He moved with a determination Morales had never seen, weaving between trash bins and abandoned cars until he reached a sagging fence behind an old boarded-up house. "Show me," Morales urged. Heart hammering, Max pawed at a loose plank, growling low in his throat. Morales gripped his flashlight tighter and forced the gate open. Inside, the yard was a tangle of weeds and broken toys half buried in dirt. Max darted to the back porch, claws skidding across rotting boards. He began to dig and bark, sending up clouds of dust and splinters. Morales yanked away the debris with gloved hands. That's when he saw her. The little girl lay curled in the shadows, too weak to cry, her arms protectively around her ribs. Max whimpered, inching forward to lick her cheek. For the first time, she opened her eyes and didn't look afraid. Deputy Morales knelt beside the girl, careful not to frighten her. She didn't flinch when he spoke, but her gaze never wavered from Max's face. "Hey, sweetheart," Morales murmured, reaching for her hand. "You're safe now." Her tiny fingers uncurled from Max's fur just long enough for Morales to slip his hand into hers. She tried to speak, but coughed instead, her voice ragged with thirst. Max pressed closer, his warm breath stirring the dust. When she started to tremble, he lay down beside her, curling his body protectively around her small frame. She buried her face in his neck and closed her eyes. The paramedics arrived minutes later, radios crackling as they carried their equipment over the broken porch. One medic tried to ease Max away so they could lift the girl onto a stretcher, but she whimpered and clung to him with surprising strength. "Easy," the medic soothed, glancing at Morales. "She's bonded to him. She thinks he's the only safe thing in the world right now." Morales swallowed hard. "Then let her have him." So they wrapped the blanket around both girl and dog, lifting them together as one. Max stayed completely still, his eyes locked on hers, never breaking that unspoken promise. By the time they reached the ambulance, it was clear, wherever she needed to go, Max was going too. Morning brought a haze of reporters and flashing cameras. Word had spread about the little girl and the K9 who refused to leave her side at the courthouse steps. Deputy Morales adjusted the strap of his vest and looked down at Max. The big shepherd sat patiently, the girl's small arms looped around his neck. She rested her cheek against his fur, eyes closed against the noise. "Ready?" Morales asked softly. Max flicked his ear but didn't move. Officers formed a corridor, shielding them from the press as they started up the stairs. Each step seemed impossibly steep. The girl clung tighter, her fingers buried deep in Max's thick ruff. Inside, the marble halls echoed with whispers. Secretaries paused mid-sentence to watch them pass. A clerk dabbed her eyes with a tissue as Max carried the child toward the main courtroom. The doors, Morales rested a hand on Max's shoulder. "She needs you in there," he murmured. The girl lifted her head at last, her eyes huge and glassy. When the bailiff pushed the door open, she didn't hesitate. She gave Max a gentle squeeze, and together, They stepped into the place where the truth would finally be spoken. The courtroom was so quiet you could hear every click of the judge's pen. The little girl sat on the witness stand, wrapped in a soft gray blanket. Max lay at her feet, head resting on his paws, never once looking away. Judge Reynolds leaned forward, his voice gentle but steady. "Can you tell us your name, sweetheart?" Her lips parted. For a moment, no sound came out. Then, with a trembling breath, she whispered it. "Lily." A murmur rippled through the gallery. The prosecutor nodded, eyes kind. "Lily, can you tell us what happened?" She swallowed hard, glancing down at Max as if gathering courage. Her small hand settled on his ear, fingers curling into the fur. He got mad," she said, voice quivering. "Because I tried to call Mommy. He pushed me. I hit my head." A single tear slid down her cheek. Max shifted closer, pressing his nose to her ankle. "Did he leave you there?" The prosecutor asked softly. Lily nodded. He said, "Nobody would find me." Silence filled the room like a held breath. "But Max found you," the judge said, voice low with a W-A-T that. Lily finally looked up. Her eyes brightened just enough to catch the light. "Yes," she whispered, her voice steady now. "Max came for me." Judge Reynolds took a long, measured breath before he spoke. His gaze swept the packed courtroom, settling on the defendant seated at the defense table. "The testimony we have heard today," he began, voice deep and unflinching, "is as clear as it is heartbreaking." The man across the room shifted in his chair, face pale beneath the fluorescent lights. His lawyer whispered urgently in his ear, but he didn't respond. Reynolds turned back to Lily, who sat straight-backed, one hand still resting on Max's head. "You are very brave," he said softly. "You did the right thing by telling the truth." Then his voice grew firm again. "Based on the evidence presented and the testimony of this child, this court finds the defendant guilty of child endangerment and unlawful confinement." Gasps rippled through the gallery. Lily flinched, but Max pressed his muzzle to her knee, grounding her with his quiet strength. Deputies stepped forward to take the man into custody. He didn't look at Lily as they led him away, hands cuffed behind his back. For the first time that morning, Lily let out a shaky exhale. The worst part was over. After the verdict, the judge rose again, this time with a faint smile softening his lined face. "There is one more matter to address," he announced, his gaze dropping to the German shepherd lying faithfully at Lily's side. Deputy Morales stepped forward, a small velvet box in his hand. "Max," he said, voice thick with emotion, "for your extraordinary bravery and loyalty." The bailiff pinned a polished silver medal to Max's harness. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment the big dog looked up, puzzled by all the attention. Then Lily slid off her chair and knelt beside him, wrapping both arms around his neck. For the first time since she'd been found, a shy smile curved her lips. Reporters scribbled notes as Judge Reynolds said, "This dog didn't just find a missing child. He gave her the strength to speak." Applause filled the courtroom, bright and unstoppable. When the crowd began to leave, Lily stayed crouched beside Max, her small hand resting on his back. Deputy Morales watched them quietly, feeling something shift in his chest. Hope, maybe, or gratitude. Some heroes, he thought, never need words to explain what they've done. They simply stand by your side when no one else will. As the last camera light faded, Max lifted his head and pressed his nose to Lily's cheek, sealing a bond no courtroom could ever break. And in that quiet moment, it was clear, both of them were finally safe.